Vatican releases date for burial of late Pope Francis. Body lies in state at St. Peter's Basilica.
The wishes of the Pope will be met. Will make decisions and decided. This is how I want to be buried or where I want to be buried. That decision stands.
We must continue to address the infrastructure and energy deficit as well as non-tariff barriers.
Accra agog as ECOWAS celebrates Golden Jubilee. Plus, federal government hopeful for immediate multilateral action to meet concerns expressed by G24 at IMF's spring meetings.
So they stand ready and very much willing and capable to help countries to navigate this particular time.
Hello and welcome to the Network News on NTA. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Ajola Komiakere will be reading from Lagos. Benny Adams, our busy businessman, has been very busy all day. Benny?
Well, Elizabeth, and Nigerians is not so cheering the news coming from the ongoing IMF and World Bank meetings in Washington, D.C., as it's been predicted that developing economies will slow down in terms of growth. But back here in Nigeria, we are seeing positive things happening, particularly with the solid mineral sector, with about 6.9 billion naira being raked in. Stay tuned to get more details.
Of course, and our sportsman Bade Adeleye has some sporting stories for us. Bade.
20 boys, the Flying Eagles, already in Egypt, are stepping up preparations for the Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations. And earlier this evening, they were victorious in their friendly game.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do endeavor to follow this newscast live on our website, nta.ng/live, NG News Now on X and other social handles on the screen. Now the news. Heads of states of many ECOWAS member nations are in Accra, Ghana for the launch of the ECOWAS at 50th anniversary. Kelvin Elnwai reports that Nigeria's president and chairman of ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, Bola Tinubu, was represented by the Minister of State, Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu, at the event.
This event is not just about a celebration. It is one of stock-taking, especially in the face of resurgent coup and security threats. This is why leaders of the sub-region are more determined now than ever before to face head-on these challenges, standing together.
Despite being a customs union, intra-community trade within ECOWAS stands at 12%. This is considerably low compared to the European Union and ASEAN countries. To resolve this, we must continue to address the infrastructure and energy deficit as well as non-tariff barriers.
We have a shared destiny as a sub-region, and that unity, however difficult, remains the best path to shared prosperity and regional stability.
There is an urgent need to implement bold, comprehensive reforms that will enhance our institutions' effectiveness, relevance, and credibility to meet the challenges of today and the future.
For the past 50 years, ECOWAS has evolved into one of the vibrant regional blocs in Africa, fostering political and democratic growth. Ordinarily, how to consolidate on these milestones ought to be the focus of the future, but that future is clouded with apprehension as the exit of 3 of its members has cast a looming shadow of uncertainty over its prospects for further growth.
This event offers an opportunity to reflect on the sacrifices that have been made, challenges overcome, and the future envisaged, standing and building on the achievements of the last 50 years towards building the ECOWAS of the future and ECOWAS of the people. In Accra, Kelvin Elnwai, NTA News.
Meanwhile, ECOWAS Council of Ministers is meeting in Accra to work out modalities for the withdrawal of the three Sahelan countries as a contingency plan for the regional bloc. Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tugar says the emergency meeting is in compliance with the directives of the Authority of Heads of State and Government, chaired by President Bola Tinubu. Garba Natala reports.
We will also consider the effect of suspending programs in the exited countries, as well as address emerging challenges on free movement of people, goods, and services. The Council will also receive a memorandum on the relocation of ECOWAS institutions and agencies that are located in the three Sahel states. The Council is expected to come up with solutions to any adverse effect that could emanate from the exit of the three countries.
And more on that report will come subsequently. Now, the President of Ghana, John Mahama, has announced 1,000 scholarships to students of higher institutions in West Africa to study in Ghana. This is part of Ghana's contribution to building a bond of friendship among young persons in the sub-region. Kelvin Elnwai reports.
As host of the ECOWAS 50th anniversary launch, President John Mahama is advocating more investment by ECOWAS countries in soft diplomacy, emphasizing that a lot more can be achieved through dialogue. A reason he said Ghana appointed an envoy to the three Sahel nations of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso.
Whether it has been in restoring peace in Liberia and Sierra Leone, in guiding the Gambia through a difficult political transition, or preventing electoral crisis in Côte d'Ivoire, Togo, ECOWAS has proven that African solutions through African diplomacy can and do work. We must not take this legacy lightly. It is one we must protect. It is one we must deepen and refine in the face of new and emerging challenges.
The 1,000 scholarship is expected to be spread among ECOWAS countries with the hope of raising a new generation of leaders to serve as torchbearers for the future of the sub-region. In Accra, Kelvin Ewonwaye, NTA News.
Now let's shift attention to the IMF spring meetings. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy of Nigeria, Wale Edun, is hopeful despite urgent concerns over persistent humanitarian crisis, rising debt burdens, and the bleak economic outlook for many developing nations. He said he believes the call by the Intergovernmental Group of 24 for immediate forceful multilateral action has been heard. Leader Samson reports.
The G24 urged the IMF to establish new mechanism for liquidity support and press the World Bank to set more ambitious goals for poverty eradication and sustainable development. The G24 also demanded comprehensive reforms in sovereign debt resolution and greater representation for developing countries within the Bretton Woods institutions. Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, who serves as G24's second vice chairman, led Nigeria's delegation with optimism.
At this time of heightened global uncertainty, what we have heard from them is that they stand ready and very much willing and capable to help countries to navigate this particular time and to continue to encourage good policy making, to encourage resilience, building of buffers, and effectively staying the course for those who are actually on a path that will take them.
Edu highlighted Nigeria's recent economic reforms and expressed confidence that the IMF and World Bank will provide critical policy advice, financial assistance, and support for sustainable growth. He emphasized the importance of multilateral cooperation in helping Nigeria and other emerging economies build resilience, reduce inflation, and achieve inclusive development. The meetings are seen as a pivotal moment for advancing reforms and securing a more equitable global financial system. From Washington, D.C., Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
And joining us live from Washington, D.C. via Zoom is Lydia Sampson to talk more on decisions at the spring meetings. Lydia, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. Now, we understand that heads of central banks, ministers of finance and development private sector executives are discussing the world economic outlook, and poverty eradication as well as economic development are the forefront. So what do they have for Africa, particularly at a time that the United States has suspended its package to the continent?
Well, I believe they have a lot for Africa, and if you listen to my report, so the word resilience keep coming up. And when you're asked to be resilient, it means there are challenges ahead that you need to be prepared for. And the IMF itself is more particular at this moment about curbing or being able to tackle the ongoing tariff war between America and China. And they believe that this is creating a lot of vulnerability and uncertainty in the financial system globally. And so I believe the G24's position that there must be more inclusion is one that resonates with the IMF. So I believe that the IMF, or the G24 met, they had a closed door meeting, after which our minister, Wale Edu, and other key representatives from G24 briefed the media. That's the report you just dealt with. And so there are a lot of position papers and still ongoing collaboration behind closed doors. And at the end, they will come up with more results. But I believe nobody wants to see the economy go the way it is going, with so much vulnerability, prediction, and downgrading of positive projections by the IMF. Everybody here is on the same path that we need to end this and do whatever it can be done to make sure countries all over the world do not go into recession. And the good news is that so far now, IMF is not calling it recession, but they're talking about a slow growth. And when they talk about slow growth, definitely they know that emerging economies need special attention. Emerging countries and emerging economies like Nigeria. And luckily for us, our president, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edu, is here. In fact, we wanted to do an interview with him, but he hasn't played through. He was rushing out of one meeting into another that is closed door. So I believe we'll have, in spite of the gloom and all, optimism is still a bit high that something can be done.
Good to know, Lydia. But we also heard that the meeting is hosting conversations on how best to react to Trump tariffs. What are the suggestions as to how to prepare for trade shocks? This is very important for Africa.
It is important for Africa because we're at the receiving end more. But most countries around the world are also preparing. With some who are able to, they are also giving it back to Trump, if I may put it that way, with retaliating tariffs. But for Africa, the suggestion is that we must look inward. We must develop resilient domestic economy, and we must come with robust policies that will include, developing our natural resources and making sure we reduce over-dependence on export so that we can thrive on our own as a people, as a country, with more than enough to do that. But unfortunately, policy somersault and challenges remains an issue. And that is where ministers like ours are calling on the IMF and World Bank to help with programs and policy implementation and any other suggestion that they believe can make Africa and other emerging economies stand on their own and not feel too much of the shock of the tariff war ongoing between the advanced countries. But of course, the advanced countries too are not exempted. They are feeling it. So many things are happening all over the world as a result of this war with shocks and vulnerability.
Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to adoptable recommendations from the meetings. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that too. Thank you, Lizzie, for having me.
Thank you very much. For more on economic matters, let's join our busy businessman, Benny. Benny?
Thank you, Elizabeth. And while conversations continue in Washington about the global economy building resilience, particularly African economies, Nigeria is already building resilience with the federal government collecting 6.957 billion naira mining fees and registered 118 new private mineral buying centers in the first quarter of this year. Given the details at the second annual mining conference organized by the Business Day newspaper in Abuja, Minister of Solid Minerals Development Dr. Dele Alake says the revenues reflect the outcome of the ministry's efforts to raise awareness, attract investors, and details also show that mining fees collected by licensing parastatal mining cadastral office came from 955 applications for title grants. 651 were for exploration, 270 for small-scale mining, while 49 for quarrying and 24 for reconnaissance permits. The minister approved 867 applications, including 512 exploration licenses, 295 small-scale mining leases, while 60 quarry licenses, 5 mining leases. Well, the statement also adds that the revenues are from paying various fees, including annual service fees, application processing fees, and renewal of titles. Dr. Alake disclosed that the ministry will soon set up the Nigerian Solid Minerals Corporation, which will give Nigerians the opportunity to invest through a public offer. The ministry in 2024 surpassed its projected revenue of 11 billion naira by 27 billion to record 38 billion naira. Now looking at the global market at this time, the Nigerian exchange began the week bullish on Tuesday after the Easter's break, building on previous week's gains and investors' renewed interest in banking stocks. The bulls took the market up by 49 basis points to close at 104,739.61 basis points, up from 104,233.81 basis points. On a Thursday, investors gained 317.84 billion naira as market capitalization increased to 65.82 billion naira. Looking at South Africa, South Africa is also in green to finish, or like say finish the day's transaction at 0.56% to close at 82,722.25 basis points. Same for Tunisia Tune Index. It is a 0.41% increase to close at 11,093.31 basis points, which shows African economy is actually building on the resilience that has been talked about at this particular point around the world. Well, Elizabeth, this is it on business at this time.
Thank you so much, Benny. Thank you, Benny. 2 million Nigerians, mostly women and youths, are the intended targets of a mass empowerment scheme being worked out in a collaboration between Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu's Renewed Hope Initiative, and leadership newspapers. Chairman of the newspapers, Zainab Isaiah, led her management team to the office of the First Lady, where the proposed partnership was sealed. State House correspondent Adeni Taiwo brings us details.
Leading a 5-man delegation to the office of Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, the chairman of leadership newspapers, Zainab Isaiah, says her organization has taken due note of the activities of the First Initiative and is impressed with the impact of its interventions. The organization hopes to expand the scope of these interventions with a proposed collaboration that will ultimately put economic power in the hands of about 2 million Nigerians.
The important role of more or less taking care of the less privileged in the nation. Those places where people, many times they say many things but really don't make an impact. I see your impact. So I thought it pertinent to just lead a team here to say we support you, we see you, and we appreciate what you're doing for our nation.
The idea is to trade in 5 designated areas. It includes tie and dye, fishery, leather works, and additional 2 other initiatives designed to meet the needs of different sectors of the economy. The idea, therefore, is that once you're able to train about 1,000 persons, 1,000 persons will train additional 4 persons each.
With its potential to further scale up economic empowerment among Nigerians, the proposed collaboration ties in with the vision of RHI, and the First Lady expressed willingness to partner with the newspapers.
Yours is, a credible organization. I believe that with all that you are doing, you just want to do good and partner with that. So wherever state you want to work in, you let us know, how many numbers you want to empower. And then once we have the number, then we can always, get going.
This is the first time that RHI is officially partnering with a media organization on its economic empowerment program. In the State House, Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
You're watching the network news at 9 on NTA. Let's take a breather. More reports when we return. Just stay with us. Thanks for staying with the NTA. Now to pilgrimage. The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria has concluded arrangements to commence the 2025 Hajj operations with the airlift of pilgrims to Saudi Arabia starting from May 9, 2025. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports that the update was disclosed after the NACAN board briefed the Vice President Kashim Shettima at the presidential villa on preparations for the 2025 Hajj operations.
A meeting in preparation for a spiritual exercise, and Vice President Kashim Shettima charged the board members led by the executive chairman said arrangements have been made in Mecca, Medina and other cities for a hitch-free 2025 exercise, part of which is the securing of enough bed spaces and adequate feeding. May 9th is scheduled for airlift of the first flight to Saudi Arabia through Medina and intend to conclude the airlift by May 24th and start the return by 13th of June to 2nd of July.
We came here just to brief the Vice President about the preparedness for the Hajj operation for this year, 2025.
Now I can assure all Nigerian pilgrims that they are all in a safe hand. Adequate arrangements have been made for both their accommodation, their feeding, and also their transportation within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and most importantly, their airlifting in and out of Saudi Arabia.
All our centers across the nation, booklets are ready, waiting for pilgrims to come and apply, and it's issued to them accordingly.
Adequate arrangements have been made for the airlift of over 40,000 pilgrims, including officials from the states and 13,000 others from other tour operators in Nigeria. From the State House, Abraham Jibrila, NTA News.
Away from pilgrimage, stakeholders in the fight against corruption in Nigeria are calling for an interagency collaboration and strict adherence to ethics guiding the conduct of anti-graft agencies. Kelvin Samuel in Uyo reports that this was the message at a 3-day National Anti-Corruption Conference with the theme fostering collaboration in enhancing transparency within ministries, departments and agencies.
Driven by the desire to fight corruption in all government ministries, departments and agencies, this conference organized by the House of Representatives Committee on Anti-Corruption is discussing and profiling implementable solutions towards the fight against corruption.
No single entity or agency can tackle the prevalent nature of corruption alone. It calls for the synergy between the government agencies, civil society, the private sector and the citizenry to create a cohesive strategy that places transparency at the forefront of our public administration.
Keynote speakers outlined some ways through which corruption can be tackled to include digital transformation and e-governance, as well as review and strengthening of anti-corruption laws, among others.
I think we should change the acquisitorial system to inquisitorial system, whereby if we get a criminal, we should ask him, tell us the reason why we should not convict you for living on seditious land, rather than asking us to establish proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Corruption is endemic, and that is why at all times we must wear the cloak of ethical values and transparency in order to win the war.
Nigeria, like many developing nations, has made strides in strengthening governance. However, systemic corruption, opaque decision-making processes, and weak institutional checks continue to hinder our growth.
The conference continues till Thursday when a communique is expected. In Uyo, Kelvin Samuel, NTA News.
In other news, shareholders of Nigerian Breweries PLC, Nigeria's firmest brewing company, have commended the board and management of the company on their efforts to return the company to profitability amidst challenges confronting the Nigerian economy. This was during its 79th annual general meeting of the company, which was held on April 16, 2025, virtually. The newly appointed board chair, Nigerian Breweries PLC, Juliet Anama, acknowledged the decisive actions taken by the company to deal with economic and business realities in 2024, which are already yielding positive results. Anama, who expressed profound appreciation to the shareholders for their patience, trust, and unwavering support, added that although the company did not pay dividend in the year under review, the net profitability recorded in the last quarter of the year represents a step in the right direction and the result of the successful execution of the business recovery plan in 2024. This has placed the company on the path that will result in the resumption of dividend payment in the not-too-distant future. She noted that the company was ready to consolidate its leadership in the market by taking advantage of any market growth, notwithstanding the aggressive competitive environment that has characterized the commercial beverage sector for some years now. Some shareholders appraised the board for steering the company through a turbulent period and helping to return the business to profitability. Now, the critical and efficient national infrastructure for dry port and shipping will stimulate Nigeria's small-scale businesses, thereby placing the country on the map of Africa and international markets. This, the topical issue deliberated at an interactive session by the Nigerian Shippers Council in Bauchi State. Zainab Agbola tells us more.
Transportation as a key to developing economic activities is playing a major role for both local and international business environment. The interactive session by the Nigerian Shippers Council paid attention on the importation and exportation of goods in Nigeria, which is regarded as lubricant beside contributing to the entire world's economy.
The fact that issues have been even resolved, and we are looking at resolving some of the issues that have been raised. And altogether, ultimately, Bauchi State is a hub for trade, for international trade, and the fact that the people of Bauchi State and the zone in general are committed to economic advancement in line with Mr. President's Renew Hope agenda.
When we were inaugurated 2 years ago, we are made to understand that there are some office furniture and equipment that should be given to us.
This is our commitment, and this is what we yearn for, and this is what we stood for. And beyond all, we are advocating for the Nigerian people.
The interaction is expected to assist business owners and entrepreneurs who intend to export their products, requisite knowledge on shipping.
I've got a lot of answers to some of the questions that I have had in mind because I have the intention to go into shipping business.
I realize there's a lot of procedures and process that I have to know and follow before I can achieve what I want to achieve.
It would help my business a lot because logistics is one of the major challenges we are facing in our businesses.
The location of Nigerian ports and proximity to production sites were among the issues of concern by stakeholders, with expectation that the interconnectivity between continents will expose Nigerian products into the world market. In Bauchi, Zainab Agbola, NTA News.
To infrastructure development, Governor Babagana Umar Zulum has flagged off 2 major infrastructure projects in Maiduguri: the construction of a 7.1-kilometer Tashan-Kano dual carriageway and the post office flyover. The new flyover is the 4th of its kind initiated by the Zulum administration, reinforcing the governor's commitment to expanding and improving township roads. Pauline Kujevana reports.
In continuation of our urban renewal program.
The Teshan-Kano dual carriageway, which includes the construction of an additional bridge, stretches from the Borno Express flyover to Malai. It is expected to be completed within 8 months. During the second ceremony at the post office roundabout, Governor Zulum announced that 50% of the 16 billion naira contract sum had already been paid to the contractors, urging them to adhere strictly to the contractual terms and complete the project within the stipulated time frame. Governor Zulum reaffirmed his administration's dedication to infrastructure development, emphasizing the significance of this project in improving the quality of life for residents, easing traffic congestion and boosting the state's economy.
We want to construct orthopedic hospital. We want to construct additional general hospital. The international hotel, another one. And I think the Western bypass. These are some of the major projects that I want to complete within Metropolitan before the expiration of my tenure. For now, I want to appeal to the people of Borno Maiduguri Metropolitan Council and its environs that government is very much aware of the existing water supply shortage in the town. And we are doing everything possible to ensure that the menace is being reduced to the barest minimum.
At each project site, the governor was briefed by the Commissioner for Works, Mustafa Gubio, who outlined the scope of work and contractual agreement with the construction firms. The Teshan-Kano dual carriageway and post office flyover are part of a broader urban renewal strategy designed to transform Maiduguri's road network and support the state's long-term development agenda. In Maiduguri, Pauline Kujevana, NTA News.
In another development, the Catholic Church is observing a 9-day mourning period following the demise of Pope Francis. Ahead of his burial, correspondent Amarachuku Minka looks at the traditional process involved in the burial.
The process will follow traditional Catholic Church customs.
For the Vatican to have brought out the news, it means that the confirmation of death has been done. The chief cardinal takes a silver hammer, taps the Pope on the head 3 times, and then asks him if he's dead. If there's no response, the Pope is declared dead. And of course, the bells of the Vatican are rung to signify that the pontiff has died.
The Pope's body will be placed in a simple wooden coffin with a zinc lining in the private papal chapel for the rite of the assignment of deaths and disposition in the coffin. Afterwards, the coffin will be transported in a solemn procession to St. Peter's Basilica, where it will be placed near the main altar for public viewing and prayer. The casket will then be brought to the place of burial.
What he wants for himself. As long as he was alive and was conscious and could make decisions and decided this is how I want to be buried or where I want to be buried, that decision stands. You cannot revoke it. So the wishes of the Pope will be met.
The funeral will be celebrated in St. Peter's Square. As the church mourns, the faithful will continue to pray for the repose of the Pope's soul. In Abuja, Umeka Rachuku, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Church of Nigerian Anglican Communion expresses deep sorrow over the passing of Pope Francis, who died on Easter Monday at the age of 88. In a letter addressed to the Apostolic Nuncio to Nigeria, Archbishop Michael Francis Crotty, the Primate of the Church of Nigeria, Most Reverend Henry Undukuba, describes the Pope as a humble and selfless servant of God whose legacy will endure. Similarly, the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, on behalf of the entire Muslim community in Nigeria, condoles with the Nigerian Catholic community and the entire Christendom following the passing of Pope Francis. In memory of the late Pope, renowned for peace and harmony, the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs renews commitment to dialogue, peace and understanding among all faith traditions, both locally and globally. The Council prays that God Almighty comfort the Catholic community and guide in the election of an equally equitable and just leader. You're watching the Network News on NTA. Let's head to the city of Lagos, where Adeola is standing by with some reports. Adeola.
Elizabeth, still on the Pope's death, following the death of Pope Francis, Head of a Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City State on Easter Monday, people from different backgrounds have been reacting to his demise. One of them is the Catholic Archbishop of Lagos, Most Reverend Alfred Adewale Martins, who extolled his leadership qualities, adding that the Church will uphold his legacies.
Born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Argentina, Francis became the first Jesuit and first Latin American Pope in 2013. He supervised a rise in global Catholic population and reshaped the College of Cardinals to better reflect the Church's global diversity.
He played his role in a very, very dignified way, bringing new experiences, new ways of living the faith to us, the followers.
To the Catholic Church, Pope Francis was more than a spiritual father. He was a reformer. He brought humility, inclusiveness, and compassion to the papacy, urging the Church to focus on mercy, service, and solidarity. His voice echoed for the poor, the planet, and for peace.
Pope Francis also served for us as a real model in terms of inter-religious dialogue. His message to us about the care of the environment is extremely, extremely invaluable.
Regarded as a humble reformer, one who declined lavish Vatican traditions, Pope Francis' humility and vision reshaped the modern Church, and his legacy will not be forgotten in a hurry.
Nigeria has initiated a process of transitioning from fossil fuel dependence to a low-carbon and sustainable economy that will benefit all sectors in the nation. Called Just Transition, it will create new opportunities and address socio-environmental inequalities. Larry Beleyi was at a stakeholders' engagement on creating a framework for transitioning in Nigeria.
This engagement is an opportunity to deepen discussions, refine approach, and ensure that the Just Transition guideline reflects the public and private diverse realities that must be captured in its framework.
We know that the whole world is transiting towards cleaner energy, towards a green economy, and we don't want Nigeria to lag behind.
The Just Transition must align with these priorities by ensuring that the shift to clean energy and climate-resilient solution does not leave any community or sector behind.
Environmental experts at the interactive techno session on the guidelines discuss funding of the transition program and provision of actionable plans that will aid the shift from fossil fuel usage to renewable energy.
What I've seen here is that deliberate effort for the stakeholders to co-create that actionable plans.
Key players must come together and come up with develop a blueprint.
The world is transiting. The climate is transiting. It's transiting through a very serious period of warming now.
The consensus at the meeting is that the transition connotes a fluid timeline that we have intermittent re-evaluation to ensure that it is equitable and beneficial to all. In Lagos, Larry Beleyi, NTA News.
And that's it from Lagos. The network news will continue with Elizabeth in Abuja after this time out. Please stay with us.
Nice to know you're still there. President Bola Tinubu felicitates with the Emir of Ilorin, His Royal Highness Ibrahim Solu Gambari, on his 85th birthday today. In a congratulatory message, the President commends Solu Gambari, a former Justice of the Court of Appeal, for his unwavering commitment to nation building, demonstrated by his consistent advocacy for unity and progress. The National President of Ilorin Emirate Descendants Progressive Union, Abdulmumuni Ayo Abdulmalik, also felicitates with the Emir of Ilorin on the occasion of his 85th birthday. Abdulmalik describes the life patron of the union as a blessing to the people of Ilorin Emirate, providing quality leadership to the people for several decades. And President Bola Tinubu congratulates barrister Adeniji Kazim on his election as the president of the Ansarudin Society worldwide at the Society's Triennial Delegates Conference in Ogun State. President Tinubu describes Kazim's emergence as the leader of the 100-year-old Islamic Society as a testament of his unwavering commitment to the Islamic faith and values. Our last break beckons. Let's take it. And sports is next.
Many thanks, Elizabeth. Now, Nigeria's under-20 boys, the Flying Eagles, on Tuesday defeated their Egyptian counterparts, Young Pharaohs, 2-1 in a test game at the Cairo International Stadium ahead of the Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations, less than 48 hours after arriving in the Egyptian capital. Parobo Arere, who scored 3 goals as Nigeria successfully defended a WAFU B Under-20 championship title in Lome last October, put the Flying Eagles ahead in the 10th minute of their counter after a good pass from Bidemi Amoli. The Young Pharaohs pulled one back in the 65th minute through Ahmed Kabaka, but a dominant Nigerian side shot into the lead again with 7 minutes left on the clock after Precious Benjamin made no mistake from the spot following a foul on Divine Olise. The Flying Eagles will have their first match against Tunisia next Thursday. And of course, games against Morocco and Kenya will follow in Group B. That's your sports, but let's let you know that Manchester City, I beg your pardon, are currently leading Aston Villa 2-1 in the English Premier League. It's back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, buddy. The death has occurred of Mrs. Olufumilayo Mobolaji Adoni Edo. A service of songs will hold on Thursday, May 1, 2025 at Nelos Place 2, Yomi or Shokoya Drive by Abule Bus Stop off Mobolaji Bank Anthony Way, Ikeja, Lagos by 4 p.m. Reception holds on Friday, 2nd of May 2025 at Jewel Ada Event Center, Plot 105, Hakim Dixon Link Road, Lekki Phase 1, Lagos State. She was aged 85. And that's the news. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Elizabeth Omori.